Good morning and welcome to the show. It is Monday, so you know what that means. It is Medical Monday, and I have Dr. Roman Nations from Nation's Best Family Healthcare right here in the studio with us.
Morning.
Dr. Nation, welcome back. Good morning.
Sir.
You know, as we get older, a lot of us are taking care of elderly parents.
Yes.
And, you know, people are living longer, our population's getting older, and I'm sure you see quite a few elderly people in your practice.
Yeah,
there's a lot of us now, you know. So,
there's been a pretty dramatic change over the last couple of decades with how the landscape has worked with medical care. You're right, the patients themselves are getting older, but we're also getting much better at keeping older people alive or keeping them healthier during their older years. So one of the common things that people ask about is hormone therapy. And 20, 30 years ago, women hit menopause in their 50s and usually were gone by their late 60s, sometimes in their 70s. Well, now women are living to their 80s and 90s, and some are living far beyond that. So you have a female that lives more than almost half of their lifetime without estrogen after they've gone through menopause. Sometimes longer if they've had a hysterectomy and gone through artificial menopause. So that generates its own unique set of circumstances and things that we got to work with.
Now, what does that do when an elderly female is living without estrogen? How does that change her?
Yeah, the research kind of continues to evolve on that, because it used to think that just like with men and testosterone, it's like when you get older you don't need it because you only use it for sex anyway. Well, not so much, not by a long shot, as we've come to figure out as women age. Estrogen plays a really strong role in cognitive development and or memory. It also plays a really strong role in bone density. And if you look at women's cardiac risk as they go through menopause, they catch up to men because their estrogen levels drop. So it's not an age-related thing. It's actually a hormone-driven factor that their cardiac risk goes up when their estrogen levels drop.
So if you can replace those hormones, you can potentially live a lot healthier, better.
Yeah, we do a lot of treatments
quality
with that.
life.
Mainly what we do is we look at the things when you talk about mortality or the things that are going to kill patients. Cardiac disease is one of them. So there's cholesterol and things that go along with that. And glucose, so diabetes type stuff, is also strongly related to that kind of stuff. And the other thing, though, that we have a lot of monitoring on is bone density, because your risk for dying after like a hip fracture is about 20% if you're 80 years old. So there's a lot of focus that it's been there for a while, but not a lot of providers do it, is go look for bone density screening. It had its heyday back like in the 70s, where it was like, hey, there's this new technology to look for bone density screening, and then it kind of fell out of favor while this whole hormone battle took place about, well, if you're a woman, you should be on hormones because it'll increase your risk of breast cancer and those kinds of things. And oral estrogen does do that. Oral estrogen can cause problems in certain women for breast cancer, but there's a whole lot more variables in it that you have to look at, and that's what we do.
Yeah, so what is some of, aside from hormone levels and things like that, what is some of the more common complaints you get from your elderly
biggest
clients?
complaint I get is my joints hurt, and the technology and medicine is changing on that front too. It used to be that Tylenol was the mainly recommended medicine that you could get over the counter as far as helping arthritis pain. There was a study that just came out in, was it Medscape or one of the other websites that's reputable, that said maybe not so much, that acetaminophen is not that strong of a character anymore for treating arthritis pain. So there's a lot of questions about that, and there's a lot of marketing about that with osteo biflex and things like that. When you look at those types of products, the benefit of them helps about 50% of the patients for up to about 6 months. And some patients get continued benefit out of it. Others don't get any benefit at all despite taking it. So they keep thinking that it's going to help them, and it doesn't. They don't clinically see a difference. So that's one really strong piece. And the other one is I'm losing my memory, doc. I can't remember what I'm in the backyard. I walk to the front yard and can't remember what I got there for. So I get that question a lot, especially if there's a family history of Alzheimer's or some form of dementia.
Yeah, and you see a lot of these medicines that are advertised on TV, like the guy finding the wife's keys in the refrigerator.
Yep.
There's a lot of medical advertising going on with that.
We've taken care of patients like that,
Yeah.
and families that have had to take care of patients like that. So yeah, there's a lot to be said, and things that we do to evaluate those.
we've got to run off to the local weather, but on the other side of that, I want to talk more about elder care and what we need to look out for in our aging parents and grandparents.
Okay.
And we'll be right back after your local weather. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Roman Nations, and we're talking about America getting older, elder care, and what you can do to stay young. How do we stay young, Doc? How do I do that? What's the magic elixir? Where is that fountain of youth?
Excuse me. Believe it or not, exercise and physical activity have a really, really, really strong component to all of that. You have, if you think about what most elderly folks do when they're at home, what do? They wake up, they have their coffee, they eat breakfast, they go sit on the couch.
Yeah, pretty much.
And they watch TV all day long.
Except if you're my parents, who are in their late 80s, you go drive as well. That's what they do. At least my dad.
Now, for some, that's actually a good thing. But where we get into the dangerous part of it is that, and where families don't realize the difference, is that if somebody takes the same route, it's like brushing your teeth. It becomes more muscle memory than it is cognitive memory, and that's where you get into the accident part of things. Is that you'll have older patients that are taking the same route to and from the grocery store that
they're used to the same drill all the time
that they've taken for years, and they don't. So when anything happens differently from that, like a car pulls out in front of them, there's a bus there instead of those kinds of things. They don't have the mental cognitive part to say, there's a bus there, I need to stop, there's the brake, okay, let me stop before I hit the bus.
What can we do to keep our minds young? I guess like exercise as well.
Well, exercise is part of it. The other one is getting the carbs out of your diet. Lots of folks, you think about what most people have for breakfast, they have coffee and danishes or, bowl
of cereal.
Yeah, all bad stuff.
Yeah.
The coffee itself actually has got some strong data behind it as far as helping prevent Alzheimer's and dementia from coming around. Yeah. But the other stuff, the carbohydrate part of it, just bathes your brain in sugar, and then it gets stupid over time.
Giving my brain a sugar bath, and and I guess that's for all ages too, because carbs. I know, at least just anecdotally, if I'll eat a lot of carbs, I get drowsy. I'm looking for a nap.
Yep. Yeah, about an hour later, and that's what your pancreas is keeping up. So you get drowsy about an hour later, and then it takes about an hour after that before your sugar level's off again, and then you're back awake like you're supposed to be.
What is considered elderly now? Because you always hear 50
is
the new 40 and 60 is the new 50.
Yeah,
and my parents are in their 80s and 80 is the new 70, I guess. I don't know.
And that's a good question. And to me, it's not a matter of age, it's more a matter of function. I mean, I've got patients that are in their 30s that are disabled, whether it's from accidents or mental issues or a number of other things, to folks that are 70 and 80, like Mr. Fohan that was on here, that still works.
Yeah, he's 100 years old. Yeah. God bless him.
There's patients that we have that are like that are in their 70s and 80s. So it's not an age-related issue. It's a function issue. And so one of the things, if you're talking about how to keep your mind busy and keep it young, is to change your routine or find something different that you have to think about in order to make it happen. So if you're doing problem-solving kind of stuff, taking on a new project or something like that, is often a good idea to help.
My parents, we swore we were gonna burn their Scrabble board because they're always playing Scrabble.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They play Scrabble. They'll take road trips, and we're talking about an 88-year-old man, an 89-year-old woman, and they're still pretty active.
A lot of it is that, and like I said, if they're taking different trips, then that's a very good thing, because then they're having to use that front part of their brain that gets rusty as we get older. When we start using the back part of our brain that's just more muscle memory and reflex, that's where trouble tends to happen.
And I don't think I'm too unusual when I say, you walk into my parents' house and the TV's turned up really loud, or they're playing Scrabble, or or someone's napping, or they're eating, or not real active stuff, but I guess keeping your brain active.
That's part of it. That's part of it. If you get them off the couch and have them go for a walk, at least a couple 3 days a week is a huge deal. There's a lot of couples and a few docs that specialize in actually helping older couples stay sexually active. Sexual activity actually has a pretty strong component in the way it works on your brain chemistry to keep things fresh and young. And a lot of folks let that kind of go by the wayside for one reason or another.
At some point in your life, you kind of close up shop and that's it.
Yeah.
And but there's no reason not to, is there?
Nope. No, I mean, there's lots of medicines out there, and it's not just on the male side that we treat. There's a lot of things on the female side that also need to be taken care of too.
So, so the old folks don't have to stop. I mean, it actually is beneficial. Is there a genetic component to all this?
There's always genetics with stuff, whether it's metabolism, diabetes, thyroid, autoimmune issues. I mean, there's always genetics that play a role in that. You're not going to do much about that. The question is where are you at in the genetic pool, and then doing what you can in order to.
And so just because your parents live to be 100 doesn't mean you'll make it, does it?
Right. And there's also, I mean, smoking obviously has a piece to that, and then alcohol actually has a really strong piece of that too. There's about a year or so ago, they actually published a different study that says there's no safe level of alcohol to drink anymore.
Really?
It used to be that
a little glass of wine every night,
Yeah, so it used to
so
be
much.
right that you could do that, and 1 drink for women per night was considered okay and tolerable and safe, and then up to 2 for men was safe. That's not the case anymore. Any level of drinking actually increases your risk for throat cancer and esophageal cancer and GI tract cancer.
Dr. Roman Nations, thanks for that advice on keeping us young. I'm not a big drinker, but I enjoy occasional things. So the best advice would be, no smoking, no drinking, exercise, eat right. And
the eat right part, and then use your brain.
And use your brain. Thank you so much, sir, for coming back on the show, and we'll see you next week. And
thank you.
We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jay.
And I'm Bobo.
With Gears Transmissions. Last week, we had a Ford Pinto that rolled up into the parking lot with 1 tire blown and the other 3 were aired up. And the guy said he had lots of money and he wanted to convert it into a nice car. So this is what it looks like after a week here at Gears.
Wow, that is amazing.
All for $21 we did that, folks.
What a transformation, Daddy.
Yeah, this is fix it or finish it, or flip it. Anyway, no, seriously. Today's topic is finding yourself a garage. You know what? If you've got an antique car or something you really take a lot of pride in, such as our customer has in this one, you don't want just anybody to work on it. You want to find someone that you're comfortable with that will take that extra step to make sure you're comfortable. One of the big things that we do on something of this nice is we bring it in every night and keep it covered while it's inside the shop. Bobo, tell us what we did.
Yeah, that's a must. On a vehicle of this nature here, this is a 39 Ford. As you can see, it's really custom. Everything on it's custom. It's powered by a 350 cubic inch motor, which is a Chevy engine. It's got a Ford 9-inch rear differential in it.
I thought that was a
pretty
scratch.
much everything on this car is custom.
I thought that was a scratch.
Yeah. Oh God.
Oh Lord. Anyway, go ahead.
The drivetrain on it's all custom. When you're working on something like this, you got to take special care and caution that you don't scratch the vehicle, that you make sure that you don't spill any fluids on it. You got to keep it pristine. It's a very special car, and we're honored to work on things like this here at Gears all the time.
Remember, we offer free diagnostics here, as well as free check engine lights. So we'll do anything for you, but the main thing we want you to know is get to know your shop before you trade with them, whether it be us or anybody else in town.
Sure.
Ask the simple questions like, what will you do for me?
Sure.
Can I get that in writing?
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us this morning. Have a nice day.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Aaron Shores from Spine and Neuropain Specialists here in Panama City and also in Chipley, right?
Correct.
Now, why do you have 2 locations?
Well,
you're one guy.
There's a lot of.
You got one guy. You got 2 places you got to be.
Well, I think there's a lot of folks up in the Washington County, Jackson County, Holmes County area that have issues that I feel like we can help, and it's an underserved area. So I think it's a way to give back and help others up there in the smaller communities.
It's sort of a rural area.
It is.
I would imagine.
Yeah, it is very rural, and while there are folks up there that certainly are able to make it to Panama City or other areas for their health care, there are certainly a lot of folks up there that have financial limitations.
How long does it take you to get up there? How long of a drive is that from Panama City for you?
It's about 45 minutes.
About 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, for you, it's 45-minute drive. For someone who's in chronic pain, driving 45 minutes into Panama City could be a barrier to treatment, couldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and we hear that on a pretty regular basis when we're up there. It's such a long drive, or it's so uncomfortable for my back or my neck to take that drive, and then add in fuel costs and those other things, and it does become quite a burden for some folks.
Do you find, is it a different kind of patient in rural areas like that, or are we all the same in that we all suffer from the same maladies when it comes to chronic pain?
Yeah, no, I think the what we see as far as the causes of people's pain and what they go through is all is very similar to what we see down here. Certainly up there are a lot of farmers and folks that need to be out there at 5 o'clock in the morning tending their crops, or they're not making any money and feeding their family. Just as there are people down in the Panama City area that have to go to work early in the morning as well. So
there are talk show hosts who can't make it to the studio on time, who have to drive in the morning.
Exactly.
The type.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but no, I think what we see up there is similar. It's just a way to bring some of the specialty services that are in larger communities to a rural area.
And what are some of the primary things that you treat there? I guess you see a lot of people who maybe accidents, perhaps, and arthritis and things like that. All pretty much the same across the board.
Yeah, across the board. We see auto accidents. There are a lot of folks that get injured out in the fields working, or hurt their back. They have pinched nerves or sciatica, neck pain, headaches. Very similar stuff that we would treat down here.
Now, because you have two offices, do you offer identical treatments at both of them? I know you have the platelet-rich plasma treatments that you do here in town. Do you do that up in Chipley as well?
We do, yeah. We take the equipment up there with us. So the large majority of the treatments that we can provide here in Bay County, we can provide those treatments up there in the rural community as well. There are a few exceptions, just logistical things that maybe they don't have the setup for up there. So we would, on rare instance, maybe bring those patients back to Bay County. But for the large majority of the treatments we provide, we can do that up in the Chipley area.
And for people who may not know, I know we talked about it before, but I'll ask you to explain it yet one more time.
Sure.
Platelet-rich plasma. Plasma. What is it, and why is it beneficial?
Platelet-rich plasma is what we call a biologic treatment. And basically, what we do is we draw an individual's own blood out right there in the office. Takes about 20-30 minutes to do it, and we spin it down in a centrifuge. And the plasma portion of the blood is the portion of the blood that has a lot of the healing factors in it. So when we spin it down in a centrifuge, it concentrates those healing factors, 10 or 20 fold, and then we can draw that specific segment of the blood out and inject it in a particular area of the body. So for folks that have tendinitis or certain types of joint pain or certain types of back pain, we can inject that person's own cells, if you will, or own healing factors into an area and help them heal.
So right into the specific site that's maybe giving you a problem, say a knee or
correct. So we're using a person's own healing factors to help heal them, which has an advantage in some instances, because it sometimes can keep people from having to have surgery, not all the time, but it also can have fewer side effects associated with it than maybe repeated steroid exposures, so there are certain situations where steroids aren't helpful anyway, and people are certainly cognizant of the side effects of steroids. So the PRP is a cutting-edge therapy that is used a lot with professional athletes as well as weekend warriors and other regular folks that have the same issues.
And basically, it's your own amped up healing factors being reintroduced to yourself. And is there any bad side effect at all?
Well, sometimes folks can have some painful, or not pain, but some discomfort from the injection. Sometimes, when you inject around a sore area, they may have some persistent soreness for a few days. But for the most part, it's the body's own tissue, so the side effects are very minimal.
How could you go wrong? Dr. Aaron Shores, thank you so much for getting us smart on platelet-rich plasma and both your locations here in Panama City and in Chipley.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I have Thomas Winterman here in the studio yet again to give us our Thrive Tip of the Week. Thomas, you wrote a whole book about having a Thrive life and how to be, a healthy and well-adjusted human and have a more productive life.
Yep.
You've been giving us tips here that are great. What is our tip for the week?
For this week, it's to avoid the common mistakes. When it comes to goal setting, personal development, when you work in it long enough, you start to see patterns of problems that people have. And the biggest mistakes in goal setting are people set goals that are not specific enough, or goals they can't possibly achieve, or goals that are not measurable. Those are the three big mistakes. And if you can avoid those, you can be a little bit more successful.
Has to be specific.
That's right.
Has to be achievable. And what was the third one?
Measurable.
Measurable.
Measurable. And that's really big. That's really big. The analogy I use is, imagine you're in a college course and you get there and the teacher says no homework. And you say, oh, that's great, no homework. I'm really excited about this. And then there's no assignments throughout the semester. And then you can't contact the teacher. All you're graded on is the final test at the end of the year. That sounds great, but you've had no way to measure your learning.
Right.
You've had no way to learn where you are. And the end of the year, your pass-fail, you're in big trouble. That's why homework is helpful, and the same thing goes with goal setting. You have to measure your progress throughout the duration of the goal so you know which way you're going.
Right, and you got to make it achievable. So almost like, say, if you're on some sort of weight loss mission, I want to lose 50 pounds.
Yeah.
But you're not going to do it in a month, and
Right.
you're not going to do it in a year, but you're going to have to step on that scale once a week.
That's
and
right.
say, well, maybe I lost a pound, or maybe I lost a half a pound.
That's
You know?
right. Make it achievable. You want to lose 50 pounds? Make it a year.
Yeah.
Make it a year. That's about a pound a week. That's doable. That's healthy. A lot of people want to lose 50 pounds in 3 months.
Yeah.
That's not healthy. If you lose 50 pounds in 3
Yeah.
months, there's probably a problem going on there.
Or you could get your own reality show and, and lose weight like crazy. And
Right.
there are people who do that. Competitive weight loss is kind of weird,
Yeah.
you know, but it is entertainment for some people.
Right.
But in the real world where we live, you know, make it achievable. So our Thrive Fit tip for the week again is?
Avoid the common mistakes.
Avoid the common mistakes. Thomas Winterman, we're going to have to let that be the last word. Thanks for that Thrive tip, and we'll see you next time.